All right, it's early morning here at Train Mountain. We're gonna go down to Lilyville and see if they need a hand moving some buildings around. We're at the first tower here where there's a control box and you can see the different routes that you have. So we want to go down to Serpentine, which would be number 3. Or there's a shortcut where we can go through the Klamath Western Railroad. Let's try that one. So we'll poke that one. That puts us out at the Serpentine down further on the line. There are steeper grades there, so long heavy trains can't go there, but we can do it. So I'm gonna release my brake, signal the high ball, and off we go. We've got a green on the bottom light for the diverging route over to the K&W. And we're gonna check to make sure the switch points are good. Sometimes they don't fully line up. And on this railroad, the switches are spring switches, so you can run through points like this that are not lined for your direction. Just have to make sure if you back up, you get your full train through it before you try to back up. So now we're heading over to the Klamath and Western side, known as the K&W. We have myself as engineer and conductor Katie, who doesn't like being on camera, but I put her on there to get her used to it. When we have big events, they have caterers that will come to the little kitchen at the Klamath and Western, and there's a connecting path here where you can walk down, or even better, you can take your train down and park it in the big yard over there and then step off and have lunch. It's kind of fun. There's the back side of the full-size equipment display. The K&W does separate tours from Train Mountain. They have their own tour train, and I don't know if they run on same day or not, but there's potentially you could ride both of them. But even then, you don't really get a feel for the full size of the Train Mountain Railroad unless you take the tour out to Midway Circle. Those are done as specialty events. They'll provide lunch because it's kind of an all-day thing. If you look at my previous videos, you'll see where we've gone out that way before. It's a fun ride. Klamath and Western has a lot of neat full-size equipment on display. Lots of switch stands, caboose, semaphores, signals, even a speeder. We're coming up through their main depot area here. They've got fences to keep the kids from running out on the track. There's the big picnic area and the diner where we do lunch. And there's the gate where they let the herds of people through to board the train. Here's the track shop. We have specialty flat cars that are long enough to hold panel track. They build them up in the track shop, and then trains will come down and move them out to the locations where they need to replace track. They can do straight sections, curved sections, switches, anything they need. There's a crane that they use to lift the heavy stuff onto the cars. Those switches with the Trex ties and the steel rail are very heavy, so sometimes you need a little assistance if you don't have a lot of people around. Okay, and we are aligned left. If we wanted to go back up to Train Mountain, we could take these. This one here would go back to K&W. The inside one has an option of going up and over that bridge that we crossed under a few minutes ago. They have little displays for people to enjoy while they're riding the train. But winter is really hard on things, so it takes a little bit of maintenance to keep all the displays in top shape. And also the squirrels like to bite on things, so they even chew up woodwork sometimes. I think they like the paint. We're starting to go downhill. I'll point out the next milepost. Here's a loop that would take us back up to the top of K&W. We're going to continue down this way. Teddy Bear's Picnic. I think all the props have been put away, but normally there'd be a little picnic with teddy bears there. So here's a milepost. And it says negative 1.66, so that means it's a downhill grade of 1.66%. If you're running a heavier train, that helps you kind of know what to expect for managing brakes. If you've got a couple thousand pounds of passenger car and rider, that's important information. There's another milepost and a whistle board. That whistle board is for this crossing here. We don't generally blow for these service road crossings. You just use your eyes and ears. But we'll do it just for the sake of demonstration. Bears. Look like paper mache or foam or something. I think when they do regular tours, people come out and kind of fluff up the displays, put all the characters in place. On this track, we have a steel outside rail and an aluminum inside rail. The outside rail on this track gets the most wear. Now we're back to both aluminum. The steel wears a lot better because it's a harder material, but consequently it wears your flanges a little bit more too. Another service road crossing. With this Goose, if I want to slow down, I throttle down and it goes into regeneration mode. You can see how quickly you can stop with that. If you really have an emergency like a derailment, with such a small train, the drag usually stops you pretty quick in addition to throttling down. And then another means is I can pull on the emergency brake. You can see that has a pretty good effect. That just has a little tread brake on the back axle. And then if all else fails, you can dig your heels into the ballast and that'll bring it to a real quick stop. There's a little turtle, geese, and a pelican way down there. These look like, I don't know what those are, gourds and pumpkins. I'm not sure what the story is behind that. Coming up on Freehube siding. They have a scale grain elevator here, and during operations meets, this is a popular spot to switch loads of grain out. They've even made scale corrugated siding. Okay, this switch is set for K&W. It would take us around to the right and back onto K&W. We're going to line it for TM, Train Mountain. We'll go straight and we'll get in at the Serpentine by Blue Caboose. Blue Caboose is where a lot of the people who live on site stay with their RVs. Usually they're committee members or board members that will be here for several weeks on end. So it makes sense for them to have their own living accommodations. They have water and all those accommodations for their trailers here. Here's Vit's Yard. some cars in Vit's yard. Those are part of the train game. You've seen us play that before. You can dial up the app and it'll show you what cars are available for switching in that yard and where each of them are destined to go. Make sure we're paying attention. We got a green signal here. Nobody coming either direction. Take it easy over the diamond. Here's some of the RVs. It's a fun spot to hang out. Sometimes people do chili cookouts. And we got lights on the crossing. Have to watch for uphill traffic. This intersection, this junction is not protected by signals. Same with this next part of the junction. Have to watch for downhill traffic and give them the right of way if they have a heavier train. During the big meets, the dispatcher will control all of that. But there's such low traffic today that we're on our own. There's the motor pool. They do all the heavy maintenance for the equipment. They've got full-size tractors and everything that they use to maintain the site. There's the Luke Connor siding and spur. Little speeder shack. Check our voltage. 28.6. There's a high fire danger. So we have fire equipment positioned around the railroad. If somebody sees something, it's best to act soon, otherwise it gets out of hand. Python. There's some industries there that you can switch out. It's tricky though, you can only switch out on the uphill track. So you have to plan your move. Sometimes you can use a junction strategically, go around the Y and get oriented the other direction, go uphill. There's the end of one of the spurs. Fit a lot of cars in there. There's a squirrel. On a brick. There he goes. We've got some fast squirrels around here. Youngstown. They have a full-on lumber mill with a wigwam burner. Lots Lots of neat buildings, a couple of spurs that go in there for pulling cars. The reason they call this Serpentine is because it snakes down the hill. That's where Train Mountain gets its name. It's on a hill, and so to get down to the meadow, it's a pretty good elevation change. Nobody coming that way, nobody coming uphill. That's another thing, you want to yield to uphill traffic if you can. Because if it's a heavy train, they might have a hard time getting started again. There's the high ball. That ball signal is another way to display train authority. We're nearly to the bottom of Serpentine now. You can see all the different levels above. And then as a way of promoting that theme, a lot of the towns like Python, and there's a bunch of other things, Diamondback Junction, they'll have snake names, so that's kind of fun. This is the first day of the official meet for the big build, and the main focus was the work week that led up to this. So we've been working on various projects. Here's an example. There's a fire extinguisher in this little wooden house. That house had to be painted because the winter is pretty hard on painted surfaces. So they brought a train out, they collected all of them, brought them into the paint shop, and the volunteers painted them. Some of us painted buildings. We also did crews out doing track work and leveling and ballasting. It takes a lot of work to maintain an infrastructure this big, and they don't have enough full-time people to handle it. It would be impossible. Here's another snake reference, the king sighting, as in King Cobra. Mill. This service road is, I think, known as Cardiac Hill, because if you hike up it and you're not used to it, you'll feel it. It's a real workout, especially up there. We're at like 4,200 feet, so you really feel it if you're out of shape. When we were here last time, we hiked up it several times, and by the end of the meet, we were in pretty good shape. Another little rodent with these guys like to run with their tails up, and they're fast too. So we want to get to Lilyville, which means we have to go over to Rio Grande. That's the only way we can get there, unless we walk. So we're gonna align everything. We're coming down to Midway Circle, which is a giant circle around the G-scale train layout over here to our left. We're just gonna touch the edge of that circle, and then we're gonna head down toward the north portal. There's another circle there where we can get onto the Rio Grande and get over to Lilyville. So we're going to line this switch handle to the right. Full-size railroads don't always work that way. The switch handle doesn't necessarily point to the way you want to go. But this railroad, they established that as convention. Sure enough, the points are over and we're going to head to the right. The colored target on the switch also indicates green usually means going home and yellow means you're going away. There are a few exceptions to that where you just go in circles, but we know where those are. We are at Yuma. I'm going to pause for a moment and see where this car needs to go. We might have an anxious customer waiting for delivery. So I'm going to set my parking brake and I'll be back. Okay, we looked at the app and it said SP246081, which is this car heading up to the main yard. And we're heading that way anyway. So our conductor has left for a union break. So we're on our own, but we can handle this. We need to get clear of these switch points. Like so, and this is where it's nice to have an emergency brake. And these are kick style switches, so they have a little cam and a spring-loaded keeper. So you kick it like that, and that cam keeps it mostly that way. This has got some pine needles in it that we need to clear out. There we go. That's better. Now, I'm gonna back up, or we'll roll back because we're on a grade. It's a little lumpy because of the pine needles, but we're doing okay. I usually go pretty slow in these spurs. Sometimes there are tree roots that create lumps. You can uncouple cars and things if you're not careful. And we're gonna come in close, and that'll do right there. You get these couplers lined up, and I need to take my Fred off the back here, flashing rear end device. We can leave the flag, that's not a problem. And then the way this works, we have a safety chain. I always like to hook it around something, otherwise it can fall off and drag. And since we're on our own, we're going to use a manual car mover. Like so. And this is an extra long chain. I don't know why I did that. And then you kind of have to figure out the orientation that works. That's especially difficult. See, we don't want that hanging down. You don't want anything to hang down below the rail. I'm going to struggle with it for a minute. I'm going to go second from the last. And then you can give the chain a twist, get everything up off the ground. Now we're in business. And then you just cinch up the thing. Let's just make sure we have a good stretch here. Oh, this one's got a chain too. All right. We've accepted the move. We're going to go over to Lilyville. We have 5 hours to complete this move, so it's not a huge rush. We'll go over to Lilyville and see if they need a hand. And if they don't, we'll head back up Serpentine and deliver this car. All right. How's our conductor doing?
Fabulous.
Conductor's fabulous. Okay, highball. Nobody uses bells out here, but I like them because they're prototypical. And we'll make sure the main track is clear because we don't have signal protection. This is all kind of yard limits rules down here. And we can leave that switch line the way it is because they can run through that the other direction. And it looks like our train is following us. That's a good thing. You can hear the pine needle on the wheel. When you run over a pine needle, it has sap in it. It sticks to the wheel. 29% grade. We really felt this on the steam engine. You have to get after it with a fire to get a train up this hill. I figure we've got several hundred pounds on here. We've got 2 riders, and the Goose weighs another 200 pounds. Each car weighs about 100 pounds, so what is that? 2, 4, 6, there's probably 700-800 pound train right here. That's about as much as one locomotive, a larger locomotive. Some of the gas hydraulic locomotives that run here are easily 700 pounds. A lot of times people run 2 of them. They'll run one as a power unit that's also driven, and then a hydraulic connector that goes up to the front and powers a second unit. Okay, here's a junction. We want to be at Rio Grande. We want to line this left. This can be operated from either track, and both tracks benefit from it. Okay, nobody's screaming downhill. We'll make our way into this junction. This is quite a little hill here too. With the steamer, you have to get after it. And over the top. Now we're coming up on North Portal Circle. Lots of options from here. You can just keep going in a circle all day long if you want, but it kind of runs out of novelty pretty quick. You can kind of see the circle comes around. It's unidirectional. Over there is the North Portal to the north side. Okay, we're on the left. We want to go left. So North Portal would be that diverging route. The straight route goes to Rio Grande. Negative 2%. So now we're going back downhill. I'm going to throttle down just a little bit. We'll go into regeneration mode. If I were to completely disconnect the power, this train would just take off. Imagine putting a steel ball bearing on a piece of metal and tipping the metal. It just takes off. That's a lot how trains work. There is a little bit of friction in the curves as things bind up, but you have to have a means of braking, otherwise you'll run away. And it flattens out a little bit here. Then we come into a big left-hand curve. It's always good to pay attention. If there's a train stop there, we would expect the flagman to walk up 2 of the mileposts, which are scale mileposts, and flag us, but that's not always the case. I think these are 1/10 of a mile apart. Let's see what the next number is. That was 1.50. Oh, they're 2/100ths of a mile. That makes more sense. 1.52. Yeah, 1/10 of a mile would be a lot further than that. Here's Phillips. Have some oil facilities and lots of sidings to work with if you've got a big train or a couple big trains. U.S. Steel, that's a interchange track where you can set out steel products. Here's one of those freshly repainted fire stations. It even has the name on top. This is all steel rail down here. The steel bridges irregularities in the ballast a lot better than the aluminum. So it's kind of the preferred thing of choice on this railroad now. A lot of the main track has been replaced with steel. Makes a smoother ride. Might not be as grippy when it's wet, but it's a pretty dry climate here. Big steel mill here. I forget the name of this town. Saanich. We've got some Lilyville advertising signs. This switch is directed to the right, and that's the way we want to go. We want to head over to Lilyville. The left-hand track would take us back to the Midway Circle, where we could choose to either go back to the north side or up the hill on Serpentine, or we could go out to the campground. All kinds of options down here in the meadow. We're going on an uphill grade on an overpass, and Lilyville will be down to the left. We're basically going to make a kind of almost a figure eight. There's Jim. He's the one that maintains this town. Hard at work. We'll see if he needs a hand moving buildings. There's the track on which we will pass momentarily. We're going to go down and around and sweep a big circle and then go under. Crunch the pine cone. Fire pack. The other option is to throw dirt on it. If you carry a shovel, you can put out a lot of fire with dirt. There's the guard shack that we painted. It's looking pretty good. And the Rio Grande Caboose. Katie did some upholstery in there. That's now going to be open for tours. I wonder, SOFX 37152, stand by. Okay, this car goes to Lilyville, which is our next stop. So we're going to back up. And I don't think this switch has an operator, so I'll just kick it over. Get the pine cone out of there. We don't need that. And then I'll get the train through, and if you can switch it back when I get through it, then we won't get rear-ended by a following train. Okay. We'll stop and let our conductor back on, unless she wants to walk. All right, let's get in here. I'll go down and get the next switch. Rio Grande. This is all brand new track. This is probably the aluminum that was from somewhere else on the main. Conductor waves bring them back. She'll give us car counts to a stop. And since we can see, she doesn't have to give us half distances in car counts. That's the advantage of riding on top of a large-scale goose. We're gonna watch her hands. She's gonna bring us in. Bam. Oh. Okay, set and centered. She's gonna realign the couplers. And she's gonna use a gravity move. Oh. And then she's gonna use a car mover to push it away. And then another gravity move.
They're not happy.
I'd recommend closing the one that won't stay closed, and you can bring the other one.
Both won't.
Oh. Yeah, let's go check it out.
This one's a little...
It may be defective. That might be why it's here. Oh, you got him. Okay.
Needed a very specific junction.
I don't see a safety. Well, there is a safety chain, but I wouldn't worry about it. We're not on a grade, and we're just going to do a switch move to the next town, so we'll leave them.
Up Lilyville.
Yeah, keep an eye on it.
Can we ride the rail? Okay.
Yeah, just keep an eye on it. If it gets away, we'll stop and rehook up. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, spoken like a true railroader. Highball. She expects a water landing at some point. But that's correct, because he's installing water at Lilyville. There's a little critter on the rails. I don't know if you can see him. Let's zoom in. Oh, those little dudes are fast. Okay, we've got some oil facility. I gotta keep my knee out of here. I'm gonna take out the platform. Be careful on this railroad. Okay, nobody's coming up on the main. We're gonna just buzz down the tracks here. Look at all these little chipmunk dudes everywhere. Okay. We'll just drop this car at Lilyville, complete that move, and then help him with his buildings. There's really only one track where we can set stuff at Lilyville, so we'll come in and drop things off up there. And we'll back into a siding off the main line. I missed it. Have my conductor get it for me.
Good grief.
It's a tight one, isn't it?
Yes.
There it is.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay. Tumbleweed. I think we have a snowplow. Take that out of the way. We're going to push everything on this track. And then I guess we can just store our train there for a few minutes while we're here too. So we need to get past that switch. Let her brake come off here. Conductor. She's saying go away from us. We'll put our selector into reverse. And when she says bring them back, we'll bring them back. Yeah, that'd be the easiest. Be careful because they're gonna roll. Okay, coming back. The longer the train, the less you want to derail. So it's good to go easy on this stuff. Yeah, I think we'll fit just fine here. We'll make a hook to the rest of the equipment. Oh, I gotta use a little brake here. There we are. Okay. We'll just park it there, turn off our key.